Coming up on this edition of VCU In Depth, documentaries from students in VCU's Robertson School of Media and Culture.
We'll look at some of the ways people in this region preserve Civil War history.
And we'll commemorate Friday the 13th with a somewhat different form of preservation in the unusual business it has spawned.
VCU In Depth begins right now. Good evening and welcome to VCU In Depth. I'm Riley Murtaugh.
And I'm Nicholas Maharaj. Thanks for joining us as we feature documentaries from undergraduate students in VCU's Robertson School of Media and Culture. Living in Richmond, it's hard to escape the Civil War history that surrounds the former capital of the Confederacy.
As you might imagine, there are a lot of places throughout Virginia that are here to educate and preserve that history.
More Civil War battles were fought in Virginia than any other state, but how often do you visit these sites?
In Driving Past History, we'll see the various ways people honor Civil War history here in Virginia.
As you drive throughout this city, you can't help but notice them. For anyone living in this city, you can't escape the debate that surrounds them. For many, these monuments are the only representations of Civil War history we are exposed to on a daily basis. But here in Richmond, and throughout Virginia, we are surrounded by Civil War history. It's not just these monuments. There are many sites throughout our state that honor and preserve the history of the American Civil War. And one such area is just a short drive south of Richmond. On September 29, 1864, Union soldiers stood where we are today, at Fort Harrison. The Confederate fort, just one among several forts defending the exterior line of Richmond, played a key role in protecting the city throughout the Civil War. On the first day of the battle, Union soldiers attacked Fort Harrison and eventually captured it from the Confederates. The following day, the Confederate Army launched a counterattack, but failed in their attempt to reclaim the fort. It would remain in Union hands until the end of the war. The combined casualties at Forts Harrison, Johnson, and Gilmer totaled over 5,000, and over 600 Union and Confederate soldiers lost their lives in the battle. For the next half-century, Fort Harrison went unnoticed. It wasn't until the 1920s that Fort Harrison would be reclaimed and preserved for future generations to come.
The park was established in 1944 as a national park, but the origins go back deeper than that. It started in the 1920s when local citizens from Richmond started to do Sunday drives. There was no park, there were no monuments, nothing to indicate the battlefields, and they would just sort of make it up as they went, discovering on their own where the battles were.
Work preserving the land continues to this day and is among the greatest concerns for the Richmond National Battlefield Park.
One of the priorities for us today is preserving as much land as we can. And so that's probably our greatest priority, because once land is developed, it's essentially lost. We can always upgrade exhibits, we can put new markers up anytime, but the chance to preserve land is precious, and when it's gone, it's gone.
Driving back into Richmond, we arrive at the Tredegar Iron Works, the main visitor center for Richmond National Battlefield Park. This ironworks opened 25 years prior to the start of the Civil War, would become an essential resource for Confederate armament.
Tredegar is one of those 13 sites in the park, and is very important just as a resource because here in Richmond there was this iron foundry, which became one of the largest manufacturers, contractors of Confederate cannon. They made almost over 1,000 here. And so without Tredegar, without this site, really Richmond probably would have less of an impact in the Civil War history, and of course it became the capital of the Confederate States. And this is one of the reasons why.
As the main visitor center for Richmond National Battlefield Park, Tredegar contains several exhibits, including Civil War uniforms, weapons, and other artifacts. For 6 years, Jason Spellman was a part-time seasonal park guide for Richmond National Battlefield Park. Now working as a volunteer, Spellman tried to impress upon his visitors the historical significance of this site.
The biggest struggle that I would have as a park guide was trying to create something that was fairly invisible, a history that was long gone and dead, and make that very relevant. This ironworks, for instance, was 16, 18 buildings. Now we only have about 3 or 4. So you really don't get an understanding of what this place was 150 years ago. So the most challenging part was really trying to make something relevant and finding a way to do that.
One of the ways Civil War history is made relevant today is by living it. "140 miles north of Richmond is the Cedar Creek Battlefield in Middletown, Virginia. The Battle of Cedar Creek was fought on October 19, 1864, less than a month after the Battle of Fort Harrison. The battle is estimated to have claimed the lives of over 900 men. Every year, thousands of reenactors come from all over the world to participate in one of Virginia's largest Civil War battlefield reenactments. Many of the reenactors relive this battle strictly for their love of the history. Some, however, relive this battle to honor the family that came before them.
I have probably followed the footsteps of every ancestor I've had, whether they were Union or Confederate. As far as my Confederate ancestors, I pride them with as much esteem as I do with my Union ancestors.
Robert James Slifer has been participating in reenactments for over 30 years, and he views this hobby very seriously. The amount of training and preparation that goes into a battlefield reenactment must meet strict standards, and there are no exceptions.
We take them out, we inspect everything, because safety is a very big concern. When you have thousands of troops on the field, even though we're firing blank cartridges, they can hurt you, so you have to be very careful. We are very, very careful about what we do. Our weapons are completely inspected, not just once, but every time prior to going to battle. And if your weapon would fail that inspection, you are told go back to camp and stay there. You will not go to the field.
But through this training and the battlefield reenactments, a bond is formed between the men, which Slifer values above all.
In 33 years of this hobby, I've met a tremendous amount of great people. Some of them are going to be friends for life. Some of them have already passed away. New ones are coming in. And I take pride in those that I trained and were capable of training. If they couldn't make the grade, we tell them you can't make it. I'm sorry, you got to get out of here because this is a serious hobby. And again, that's just something that you can't replace.
Leaving Middletown and driving back into Richmond, we come across these monuments. And the question is raised once again. But whether or not the statue should remain or be removed isn't the question.
You know, certainly at a time when people are considering what different symbols mean and how they impact contemporary society, it raises a whole new series of questions.
The question at hand is, when was the last time you visited one of these museums? One of these parks? One of these battlefields? And learned the history of the Civil War?
And so whether we should take them down, I think, is not the question. I think the question is, what can we learn and how do we supplement them?
When we can answer this question, all sides can come to an understanding of what took place. Until we can achieve that, we will continue to approach this conflict from two very divided sides. And we can't afford to do that once again.
I'm Bill Oglesby, an assistant professor at VCU's Robertson School of Media and Culture and the instructor for the documentary class. Joining me tonight are Brandon Ingram, Cody Seeley, and William Luddington, who were the producers of the Driving Past History documentary. Good job, guys. Brandon, actually, let me start with you. I understand you met some pretty interesting people while producing this?
Yes, Professor Oglesby. As my group members can attest to, we've met really interesting people throughout our filming process, but one really stood out to me, and I know Will too. His name was Jason. He's a very charismatic guy, our age, so it was different to see a person our age really passionate about history, and he wanted to be a part of our documentary.
He's the one we just saw at the Tredegar.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I interviewed and went really well with him, but it was just, like I said, it was very different seeing somebody our age, very passionate about history, and like I said, wanted to be a part of our documentary. He didn't really follow us, but he approached us about and kind of talked to us about our documentary and what it was all about, and it was just fun to see somebody who wanted to be a part of our production.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. Cody, let me ask you, what were some of the challenges you had filming this particular documentary?
Yeah, perhaps the most challenging time filming the whole thing was that day we went to the Civil War reenactment. It was the first time I personally had ever been to a Civil War reenactment, and there's just so much going on the entire day that we were there, just not really knowing how to get everything we needed. There's so much going on. There's thousands of people there. So, I mean, there's a lot to really focus on it if you're going to capture the essence of an event like that. So it was really great to be there and experience it, and it was a lot of fun, but it was definitely challenging.
Okay. And William, what did you learn that you didn't know before?
Well, I think one of the things that anyone who's living in Richmond knows is just a general background of all these areas that we visited, if they know even that. But when we actually got to these locations and spoke to these people, like Burt Dunkerley or Jason Spellman or Robert Slifer at the battlefield, we really learned so much more about these areas and the roles that these people play at these locations. There's so much work that they do. There's so much passion in what they've worked to preserve. And I really think that is a testament to what they've done.
Okay, thanks so much. I've been speaking with Robertson School students and documentary producers Brandon Ingram, Cody Seeley, and William Luddington about their mini-documentary, Driving Past History. Good job, gentlemen.
Thanks, Dr. Oglesby. Richmond's art scene is constantly growing and being displayed across the city, making it a great place for imaginative ideas and creative outlets to thrive.
An oddity shop known as Rest in Pieces is offering Richmonders an opportunity to enjoy and purchase vintage odds and ends while unveiling the world of taxidermy.
Over the past few years, they've been able to team up with local businesses around the community to showcase the strange and peculiar crafts.
Check out how Rest in Pieces is keeping Richmond weird.
All right, I'll tell this story. This is a good one. I'm Justin Tyrone, and I'm the co-owner of Rest in Pieces.
And I'm Elena Gerhardt, and I'm the other owner of Rest in Pieces. We had like a long distance thing going on. I was in Arizona, and he was in Connecticut, and he flew out to see me, and my parents hated him. And and the day I turned 18, I moved across the country to be with him. And here we are. It's been 5 years almost in March.
Yeah. Honestly, Elena started collecting before I did.
Just like little skulls and things like that.
Yeah, and horns and cool things like
Every
that.
anniversary or birthday, we would gift each other something, like a wet specimen or paying way too much money for it.
Yeah,
really.
skulls and stuff like that. And then that kind of, we had like a very modest collection going, and then, I don't know, we started collecting more and like wanting like bigger and more expensive pieces, and then we started getting into like taxidermy and collecting that, and then, I don't know, we just kind of felt or at least I did the urge to like want to do it myself because I became so interested in it, and then, yeah, that was kind of how it all started. We were on our way to dinner one night and we picked up a roadkill groundhog and we just tossed it in the back of my car and like came home, and then we just like hacked it to pieces, and it was horrible on my back porch and everything, and that was the start.
And it went from us having a very small Etsy page to us, creating a Squarespace so we could have our own website and own domain, and then we started selling things out of our house, and then we got too cramped there and obviously very weird, and then we were just like, we gotta open a store, and here we are.
Yeah. In a nutshell.
Yeah, and that all of that like took place over the course of like 6 months. Like it just all happened very, very fast, and we're so glad to be as like well received as we are in Richmond.
I do all the, the skull cleaning, bones, anything that's gross or gnarly that no one else is going to deal with is what I deal with.
I do more of like, I handle the entire website. I've, designed all of our logos and posts and stuff like that. Photography, all of the Instagram posts, social media.
It ends up being described as like a taxidermy store because taxidermy is the most easily accessible term that people can hear and know that, oh, okay, I know what taxidermy is. It's been difficult with like branding and like stuff because when you say taxidermy, then you get, we get phone calls like, y'all mount deer heads, and we're just like, nah, we don't do that.
We've been saying like your one-stop weird shop for everything that is unusual, and that's a pretty good way of putting it.
I love all the nature things.
It's cool. It's like I love when kids come in here and they ask me 1,000 questions about things because I'm just like, that's so great. Like you're interested and you want to like learn about stuff.
It's just not dead decor. It's educational.
Yeah, it's not. We don't like have this store isn't meant to be this like creepy. Sorry, I swore. Like weird, store like.
The night is coming. We have been forgotten. The talker creeps along without a sound. All this nasty business gets so rotten.
We'll do what we can to vend different things, and I know that like especially this time of year, people will want us at their events because they want like a table full of like weird spooky stuff in October.
Rest in Pieces having the kind of specimens and oddities and fascinations that they do is an artwork into itself.
So this brain is a donation for one of the prizes. It's actually going to go to the 2016 Zombie of the Year. It was donated by a local company called Rest in Pieces.
Because we have a store filled with animals and everything, it's cool to give back to that. We just adopted like a bat at this like bat sanctuary in Texas, and that was like a cool little sponsorship thing. So like every month, like we donate like a certain amount of money to. It just goes to this like one bat. His name's Binky. Yeah, we have like our haunted doll. He's cool. He's like one of my favorite pieces. He was for sale at one point, but like he's become such a staple in the store, and people come in here and they know that his name is Charlie and stuff.
my favorite piece has to be the two-headed calf, because it's such an old piece and it has the actual skull intact underneath it, and it was recently restored. But how old is it? Is it from the early 1900s?
Like 1910. Yeah. People can come in and sell us things whenever they'd like. We work with local pet stores, farms in the area, zoos. Like whenever animals are naturally deceased, we try to have deals with those people so that they freeze them and save them for us. And then usually, because they're doing us a favor, we'll donate money to their store or whatever, because it's kind of win-win for everyone.
The laws on taxidermy in Virginia are pretty strict. It's like beating a dead horse, though. We've said the same spiel for like the past 2 years. It's just like we can't sell it, but the Department of Game will not tell us why we cannot sell it. We're not killing things to put on a shelf. That's just I don't understand why some people have that impression. Like, we are not actively killing animals to sell them to the public. That's not what it is. It's some of these things that we have on our shelves are people's pets that they were just like, please make something out of this, because I don't feel like it's like...
Yeah, they don't want to just throw it out.
Yeah, they don't want to just throw it out or bury it. They want to, give it a new life and, make use out of something that they no longer
and then it can sit
appreciate
on someone's shelf, and that person is then appreciating that animal's beauty even after it's dead. So
we like making weird normal, and
in a sense,
Richmond is a good place for that.
Yeah, but it's also kind of weird just because of the things we sell and like the way we look and stuff like that is definitely
off-putting.
Yeah, it can be off-putting to like the average person who would be like, I don't want you around my children or whatever. But
we're trying to break the
bad stigmatism.
Yeah. Break the stigma of we're unusual, creepy people selling dead stuff.
It opens up new perspectives on things, and then after they see you wearing necklaces and earrings with teeth and bones covered into it, at first they'd be like, whoa, that's really creepy. But at the same time, it's really, really cool.
We're trying to do something that's, beneficial to the community, and
bigger than just the store.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just about our aesthetic. It's about the people, and I don't know. I want to create a space that's safe for everyone and everyone's comfortable in, and they can just come in here and hang out if they want. It's not I don't want you guys to just give me money. I want you guys to get the experience that I don't know, the passion that I have for these things. I love sharing that with people. I don't know. I'm excited. This place was a very good stepping stone, and it served its purpose, but I am ready for a larger location.
Bigger and better things. We inevitably moved to the bigger spot to have more inventory and more time to be able to put on our own community events and our own things benefiting whatever charities we decide on, and
give back to the community. I just want you to be shocked when you open through the door. When you walk through the door, I want people...
I want you to cry.
Yeah. I want to be a little museum, I want people to be able to just be blown away by the stuff that we have.
This is our lives. This business is our whole lives, and we don't I don't know. We just care about it so much, and it's all we think about and do.
We're here with the student producers of Rest in Pieces, Angie Judson, Brianna Nardi, and Sasha Jerome. Angie, good job. Were you ever uncomfortable, though? This was kind of an unusual little topic for a documentary.
Honestly, no. The entire process was really great. Justin and Elena are just such nice people to work with. I think probably the weirdest part and the thing that people have commented on most was the skull cleaning that has a few clips in our documentary, and I was the one to actually film that, and it was very educational, and Justin was very nice about it, and it ended up being just a fun process overall.
Okay. Angie mentioned the owners. Sasha, let me ask you, after you got to know the owners, did your perspective on them change at all, and the way you looked at what they do?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen things like this before, mainly in New Orleans, so I thought it was kind of more of like a novelty thing, just like eerie, spooky type of things that they sell. But I think it wasn't so much weird, because like I thought it would be in the beginning when I was first learning about their shop. But I think it was really interesting how they're able to turn their interests into their profession, and it seems like they're very successful, so I think it's something to be impressed by, not to be so much taken aback.
Did you get the sense that they enjoyed getting the different reactions from people?
Yeah, I mean, I think they really enjoy changing people's views and opening their minds to new things.
Okay. Brianna, let me ask you, what were some of the reactions you've gotten from the public when the Rest in Pieces folks are showing their items at local events?
Well, I know you would probably think that a lot of the reactions are going to be like negative or like, oh my gosh, what is that? But I think the most natural reaction that I have seen was just people simply saying like, cool, like they're just interested in things that they don't normally get to see every day. And I think it's cool to get like a close-up of something, like if you see a live animal, you wouldn't get up close to it. You wouldn't really have the ability to. But I think with the pieces being preserved after their death, it's just a cool way to learn, like Angie said, and just get a little more familiar with something that you're not familiar with. But they do outreach at a lot of events in Richmond, and there's a lot of kids there, and they never seem like weirded out or anything like that. So.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, thanks again to the producers behind Rest in Pieces, Angie Judson, Brianna Nardi, and Sasha Jerome. Thanks. Good job.
Thanks again, Dr. Oglesby, and all of the documentary students. That does it for this edition of VCU In Depth, and thank you for joining us. I'm Nicholas Maharaj.
And I'm Riley Murtaugh. For all of us at VCU In Depth, good night.